Trying out a new role-playing game can seem really daunting, but it doesn't have to be. In this video, we're going to check out a 4-step process on how you can easily jump right into a brand new role-playing game and have an absolute blast. Last time, we were doing this series that I started on my blog on how to start a new campaign. And this is video number 3. Last time we talked about picking a role-playing game or a campaign setting that you want. So whether you play D&D or you play other RPGs, you can think about what would you want to choose. That was last time. Now we're going to say, hey, if you saw that video, you might be thinking that was a little intimidating to think about just jump into some role-playing game I've never played before because it sounds cool. And that's what this video is about. So I want to break down how new role-playing games, yes, they seem totally intimidating, but they don't have to be. So this follows on this blog that you're looking at right here on the screen, Experience a New RPG in Just 4 Easy Steps. You can go to alphastream.org and check that out. I think it's a pretty sweet one. Got some nice feedback. Thank you, folks. And this is going to be the video version of that where I'll add to it and bring in some new thoughts I have since I've been running some new campaigns in RPGs that I've never played before. So this is all very fresh on my mind. You might wonder, and it's totally cool if this is you, why would I ever play a different role-playing game than the one that I really like? And in fact, I got a comment last week that was something like, how to choose my favorite role-playing game or what I'm playing next? Easy, it's X, which was, a role-playing game that the person really liked. And that's totally fine. If all we want to do is play, choose your role-playing game here. Blade Runner, I'll say, because of the art that's on the screen. If that's the only role-playing game I want to play, fine. And my choice can be what kind of Blade Runner campaign and, what kind of PCs and the premise and the story, and that's totally fine. But it can be really cool to try other RPGs, and here's why. So first, it can be a change of pace, right? Yeah, I can have a Blade Runner role-playing game where one time I'm the replicants and one time I'm cops who are all human, and the next time I'm everyday citizens, and that changes the pace somewhat, but not as much as if I say go from total cyber tech type role-playing game to something that is vampires, right? Or if I go to something that's far west, right? That's going to be really different in terms of the feeling of it and the type of creativity we're having, the types of stories we're telling. So an advantage is just to switch things up, to get a break. I love D&D and I play it all the time. I run it at conventions. So a lot of times at home, I like to change it up and play some other role-playing games. Plus, as a designer, I want to learn from it. We'll get into that in a bit. One other thing that the change of pace brings is it's a natural time when you can say, hey, who wants to run this? Or does somebody want to run something? And that can result in a new role-playing game. And it can be a really quick experience or something that somebody says, the RPG I love that I would like to introduce to you and I run it all the time is X, and I want to run that for everybody, right? But that kind of change of pace also works as a change of GM, which can help the primary GM recharge their batteries. Now, I started to kind of talk about this a second ago. Another advantage of trying out new RPGs is to incorporate new techniques. And I talk about this on the blog a fair bit. So different role-playing games will have different ways that they approach the very gameplay itself. The things that happen in a session, the way that characters express themselves, the type of things they can do, the types of stories you can tell, and how they go about doing that, that'll all be different. So when you play a game like Gumshoe and Night's Black Agents, that system and that family of Gumshoe games will involve an approach towards skills that assumes that mysteries will be solved and clues can always be found. And the question isn't if you find the clue, you will. The question is, what do you do with the information you find? And so the skill system is built around you doing cool things with a separate knowledge skill track that will always work. And so if you are a person who is trained in medicine, when you check the body, you know what killed it. You don't make a roll for that, but you can actually choose to learn even cooler things. So it's a very different approach at storytelling. And when you play a game of Gumshoe or Night's Black Agents or Time Watch or something like that, Swords of the Serpentine, you will find that you start getting into this pattern of thinking like, okay, if I know they'll find the clues, then what I make is my clues interesting. And that's actually kind of cool for every role-playing game, right? I've talked a lot about how Fate and Dresden Files have a really neat approach for how players can help define the world before we even get going. That led to one of the products that I make, which is designed to create collaborative campaign building. And that came from me trying Dresden Files and going, wait, this is so cool. I know so much about this world that I'm playing in, despite the fact that I know very little about this setting. And I knew more in one session of helping create this world of, just coming up with ideas of what the setting was like than I did in games that I'd run for months or played for months. So you pick up these new techniques from these kinds of games, right? Shadow Dark, if you're rolling on tables and improvising with that kind of bare bones framework, that teaches you different skills than if you do something like Phoenix Dawn Command, where it has a list of items for encounters and the players can use those items in clever ways. Those kinds of prompts create different types of responses from player and game master, and you can pull those in. And some real concrete examples, I think, like 13th Age, where there is the escalation die that adds a bonus to the attack rolls of players that goes up as each round completes, so that combat ends faster. That's something you can use just for a specific encounter, like power is gathering from the ritual and this helps you, or it can be something you use all the time. But it becomes a neat trick in your arsenal, all because you played another role-playing game. A game I had a lot of fun trying not too long ago was by Monty Cook Games, Who the Devil Are You? And you can see in the art here shown on the side, there are a number of kind of colorful, interesting cards, like this one that shows like a lab and a monster breaking through some sort of field in some sort of futuristic setting. And then there's some folks who are like maybe praying or doing something around a pyramid, but with space in the background. So in this game, you start with just getting one of these pieces of art and then deciding what's going on in this scene. And then the game begins. So it's very improvisational and very creative, with the players saying, you know what? This lab is the last lab on Earth. And the creature that's breaking through is what all humans used to be. Or it's the god that caused this problem in the first place. Or, you just, whatever it might be, and you come up with this. And then there are mechanics behind the scenes that help you work off of this game. This is a very different type of skill set that you'll get from playing this than just running your average Dungeons & Dragons or Pathfinder game, right? So the more that we play with these, we develop new techniques, new approaches, and new systems. And that concept of new systems to steal is really one of my favorite advantages. I've did a video recently on the One Ring and the journey system it has for travel. I've started using that in my Deadlands home campaign, creating a Deadlands version of that journey system for travel. So I've just taken that whole system out of the One Ring based on my play experiences there, and it's now benefiting my Deadlands game. And I guarantee I will be creating a 5th edition version of that for myself. That'll be my own version of how I use that One Ring journey exploration system in my 5e games as well, right? So having these kinds of systems that you learn through new games is just amazing. The last thing here is that often when we want to have a change of pace, we're not just looking to change up system, though that is cool. We're often looking to have a kind of specific experience, right? I want to run a Star Wars game, so the Star Wars role-playing game is probably going to be better at that than D&D. Not that I can't use D&D, and I may want to, and that's cool if I do, but it might be better. Similarly, I can run a sweet horror campaign with Dungeons & Dragons, but I might want to look at what Night's Black Agents offers, or Call of Cthulhu, or Trail of Cthulhu, or any number of great systems out there that I can use to deep dive into that genre. And those genres will offer specific tools. If I play Coriolis or I play Blade Runner, those will give me different sci-fi deep dives that will be a different experience overall and will provide specific tools and techniques to tackle that kind of genre and really have that fun experience. And this is perfect if we're like, watching some TV show or movie or reading a book that really inspires us and we want to have that kind of experience, get together with our friends, and we can do that all with a new role-playing game. So here's a 4-step process you can use to try out a new role-playing game without being overwhelmed. Step 1 is how we align our brains to this. Our goal is not going to be complete mastery of the system. our goal is actually fun. And fundamental to this is understanding that role-playing games are padded with a lot of extra content. I covered this in the blog entry that one of the things that'll happen is if you look at a role-playing game, it's super intimidating, right? I mean, look at this. This is the Numenera book. Look how, thick that is. And the idea of reading this, which is, 416 pages, right? So reading those 416 pages is super intimidating. But when we look at the game, if we get to the how to play section, it starts on page 15, 16, 17, 18. So the overview of the game is actually 3 pages. It's not bad at all, right? And yeah, then we have like character creation, which brings its own things and so on. But even if we include that part, which, we're on equipment at page 81. So that was, maybe 70 pages if we want, 70 some odd pages if we want to get through all the character stuff. Then there's like a rules for the game master, but very quickly, page 130 is all about the setting. In fact, page 129. So all of the rest of this book, right? So if we look at this book, that thick part that's setting stuff and additional, monsters, NPCs, artifacts, things like that. The actual rules are down into just a much smaller set of the actual rules. So that book looks super intimidating, but learning Numenera or Cipher system is actually not that hard, even if we use this enormous book, right? That's kind of step one. And if we think about it as goal being our fun, or our fun being our goal, we can just look at this book and say, okay, I just need to understand these rules well enough to have some fun, kick it around, try it out with friends and see what happens. And so I don't, even from those few pages that carry the actual rules, it's not so critical. I talked about the Blade Runner role-playing game. That book is also pretty thick, 229 pages. And I looked at what is it that really covers the combat, skills. Well, that's 19 pages. Another 27 kind of round out the system. Not all of it is critical. And that's a total of 46 pages, much of which we can skim, right? The rest is things the players need to roll out their characters, develop their characters, the setting and lore, things like that. And we can make it even easier, right? If we take these role-playing games that we want to try out and we look for things that are pretty cool, we will find some nice aids. There is the Blade Runner book, and crinkle, crinkle, you can hear the dice rolling. There's also this starter set. The starter set itself is big, so that seems intimidating. But when we look on the back at, what's included, there's a bunch of stuff, maps and handouts in full color. And the actual rules booklet is an abbreviated version of the normal book. It is much, much thinner. And then it comes with the adventure, which is made for a first-time GM and really walks you this experience. Plus, we get the dice and handouts and things like that that are going to make this session really awesome. By the way, I've tried the role-playing game, the Blade Runner role-playing game, and I love those starter sets. They are absolutely fantastic. The adventures are super fun, and all of those handouts help create a really, really super cool experience. So I highly, highly recommend them. But let's step back from, you got the rule book, you've got the starter set. Well, there's one other thing we can do that makes it really, really easy to run a new role-playing game. And here we're already deep into my step 2, which is kind of this idea of don't get overwhelmed by the page count, right? Our first one, step 1 is the goal should be fun. Step 2 is don't get caught up in this page count. The reality is a lot better. And even more so if you look at starter sets, but also there are things called quick starts or quick guides that most companies make available. Let's talk about Deadlands, which is the campaign I'm currently running for my friends. Here are 3 books that I need to run this game in theory. So there's the Savage Worlds core set here, that's in blue. Then there is the actual Deadlands system. And then there is the Deadlands Companion, Weird West Companion, which adds additional features and so on. And even if I don't worry about that one, I've still got these 2 books. They are smaller in size than a full-size book, but they're still, that's a lot of pages. Do I have to read all this? No, I don't. And also, not only is each of these books, only some of it is really the critical core rules. I can go out to the company that makes this, Pinnacle Entertainment Group, and I can go to their website and for free download a quick start for Deadlands. And what's nice is it combines the rules that are in the Deadlands book with the rules that are found in the Savage Worlds system all into one document, which I actually really wish the Deadlands did, because when you're reading Deadlands, it assumes you know Savage Worlds, but you know what you can do? You get this quick start. Welcome to the Weird West. I printed out the PDF, and in just 13 pages, it has the rules and a short adventure. And this printout is so useful that I have not only printed out, but written out my little cheat sheet notes next to it. And then I gave a copy to my players because it becomes their cheat sheet, essentially, for how to use this. And I'm using cheat sheet here just to say you can take the quick start rules and write it up. But a lot of people, sometimes officially, sometimes fans, will also make specifically cheat sheets that walk you through how to run Night's Black Agents or how to run Blade Runner or whatever it might be. When we played Aliens, we printed out cheat sheets that was just like a 1 or 2 page document that just tells you all the things you kind of need to remember about rolling, succeeding, weapons, your skills, that kind of thing. So when you look at the quick starts and the cheat sheets, suddenly the amount of work you need to do to learn a new role-playing game shrinks dramatically. I mean, you can read these 13 pages while you're on an exercise bike or just sitting back having your lunch. This is not much at all. And in fact can be, as I said, easier than the experience of reading the role-playing game book itself. On the blog, I mentioned a number of these different quick starts, like one for Star Trek Adventures 2E. I looked at the quick start for Fantasy Age, and that's amazing. The whole Fantasy Age quick start is 37 pages, where the last 27 are the pre-gens and the adventure. So it's 16 pages of rule, right? Rules in 16 pages, we can read that at any time. The Star Trek ones are rules and character info on just 24 pages, then a quick short scenario and pre-gens. And that's the nice thing, right? You often get an adventure with it that's made for a new GM. So that's going to be fairly easy to run and probably gives you a distilled first-time experience versus you might pick up a random adventure and, is this great for a first-time GM? Is this the weird one? Like I played a game once for a system I wanted to try out at a convention. And when I sat down, the creator said, I wanted to make a different type of adventure. And I thought to myself, darn, because I wanted the iconic experience. So when we get the quick start guide, it often comes with a fairly iconic experience for it. And what else? Cheat sheets and GM screen inserts can be nice, right? So you can put those into a GM screen format or handouts on the table, handouts for players. You can also find breakdowns out there. So like I talked about, Richard Milena has nice overviews of Fantasy Age, Phoenix Dawn Command, Numenera, and board games on YouTube. So you can find those and quickly learn how all these systems work, which is pretty cool. Again, don't overdo it. You don't need to watch 20 videos, read 30 things, and the quick start guide. Just get enough to get the system down somewhat. And part of this is the burden isn't just on you, the GM, right? Pick up this, starter set for Welcome to the Weird West for Deadlands. You give it to the players too. You don't have to be the only one who knows how an attack works. You can look it up together. Part of that goal of fun first is you're not aiming for perfection, and it's not on your shoulders as a GM. And that's part of the interaction we have with your players, where you say, hey, somebody look up how initiative works. Oh, okay. And what happens when we pull a joker again? Okay, that happens. Great. And you just develop that rapport of we're all in this. We're all learning it together, and it's cool, and it doesn't have to be perfect. If we get it wrong this time, we'll learn. Next time it'll be easier, right? All right, now let's bring this home with the last 2 steps, which are pretty short. Step 3 is start short. So right on theme. When you pick up, this quick start from Deadlands, it comes with a little scenario that is, I think we played it in like an hour of play or something like that, but more if you add on to it, or if you build this into another campaign that you're going to run as an intro, which is what I did, it can be an hour and a half worth of fun. maybe 2. And that's perfect to start that way. Just do a quick experience that you're going to have a blast with, get to know the system, play with some pre-gens and just get the feel for it, right? Just see how it is. And based on that, you can now do step 4, where we stop and we think about it and go like, okay, we played that. How did we feel about it? Do we want to play more? Maybe a little bit? Do we want to go right into a bigger campaign, right? So we can decide whether we want to kind of continue all of this and in what way, right? Do we want a kind of a medium-sized campaign after this? Or maybe there's some alternate rules available for this system. Like we're playing Numenera, but we think, oh, let's use the Cypher system and try this campaign of theirs, right? That's all possible. And with Deadlands, we were playing a couple of different RPGs that different people were running. We played Deadlands. I think we did something like 3 sessions for a short campaign that was part of their Kickstarter, using the Quick Start Guide rules to make things easier. We did that. We did another thing. And then we stopped and we assessed and said, okay, what role-playing games do we want to play next? And folks had such a good time with Deadlands that they were like, let's do some more of this. The system might not be perfect, right? No system is, but we're having fun. So let's do some more of that. And let's make our characters this time instead of using pre-gens. And let's continue. So that decision was made, right? Based on now understanding the system better. The other alternative we could do is say, you know what? That was fun and we're done, And if you think about it, you buy a role-playing game. Let's say it costs you $60. 4, 5, 6, 7 of you get to have an evening of fun. And if at the end you decide you don't want to go forward, it's really, you got your money's worth, right? And you may play it with it later. You also can incorporate what you learned from it, right? Maybe you picked up new techniques or those new systems we talked about. You got a feel for how you approached character creation with the players, what your session 0 was like. All these different things you're doing, you can now incorporate that forward into your next campaign or into the next RPG you pick up. So if you use the Modiphius system and you liked Star Trek, you might say, we didn't super love this, but I liked some aspects of the system, so let's try Dune, right? Or you tried Blade Runner and you might want to try Coriolis for a slightly different experience, right? That's the kind of thing that we can do as part of this incorporating and learning and then moving on to something else. And we can always come back, right? The game's always on our shelf. Now that we know that it's really easy to pick up this role-playing game, we can do our 4-step process at any time, right? We can always come back and say, hey, let's do another session of this. Let's just grab those quick start guides again. Let's grab this short adventure that I found and just have some fun. And again, stop and assess. Do we want to do this again? Or maybe we wait another couple of years and we play it again. That's totally fine too. So there you have it. Quick 4-step process, how you can just quickly go into a game, use these different tools and techniques, those quick start guides, reading just the important parts of a game, having that mental approach of the goal being fun, jump right into that RPG and have fun with it. Don't overly analyze it or worry, and then strip it for parts and incorporate all those valuable lessons into all your other games and creations. I hope this has been useful. If you liked it, please share this channel with other folks, right? Help me reach other people and give them what you hopefully agree is useful information. Tell people about this. Repost my stuff when you see it. And thank you so much. And if you can, support me at alphastream.org. You can find how to support me on Patreon. And I really appreciate it. Come be part of our cool Discord community. I'll see you next time.